everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Universe Within podcast. This episode of the show is being sponsored by the Amazonian Plant Healing Center, the Temple of the Way of Light. I've worked at the temple for almost the past decade, and I can really attest to the quality of the work that they do. They work with the Shipibo lineage and predominantly working with the plant medicine ayahuasca, running 12-day retreats, 6 ceremonies, working with 4 healers or curanderos, 2 to 3 facilitators, which are kind of like the bridges between the work that's being done and the guests coming down. They have a pre-ceremony yoga class and teacher, working with Shipibo, people who specialize in massage and bone work, plant medicines. So it's a really amazing support staff. So if working with ayahuasca is something that interests you, it's a really amazing place to go. They've unfortunately been closed during the pandemic since March of 2020, but they're scheduled to reopen in June of 2021, June of this year. So hopefully that happens. And it's a really amazing place to go down and experience the benefits of working with these plants and this holistic system, working in a lineage that really has a strong tradition of the understanding of how to work with these plants, how to heal on all of the different levels, the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and just an amazing group of people to really make that experience conducive. So if you're interested in working with ayahuasca, you can visit their website at templeofthewayoflight.org, and I'll also put a link to that in the show notes. Also, myself and my colleague Marav Artsy, who I interviewed, I believe, in episode number 28, we're going to be running dietas in the Sacred Valley of Peru in Urubamba, and that's a really amazing opportunity to go really deep into this world of working with plants. A dieta is kind of the traditional process in which one goes into isolation, fasts, eats very little food, and ingests one of these kind of master plants or teacher plants to really begin to learn and to heal from it on all of the different layers. We were trained in a specific lineage working with tobacco and various trees, which are considered these really beautiful and amazing connection plants that connect us kind of symbolically through the earth and to the heavens, and really just have an amazing ability to heal and to teach. So we are running diets right now. This show is being shot a little bit early, so in March, but probably by the time this comes out, the next one will be in May, and then also we'll be running some diets in September, and possibly another one, but that's still undecided. So if you'd like more information about that, you can check out my website at nicotianarustica.org and Marav's site at tobaccodiets.com. In this episode, I interviewed my friend Martina, and I met Martina, I don't know, probably like 8 or 9 years ago in the Amazon. We were both working at 2 pretty well-known centers. She was working at a center called Niueirao, also with my friend Joe Tafur, who I interviewed in one of the early episodes. And she's a really amazing person. She has a really beautiful story. She's just always very bright and full of really good energy, and she's been doing this work for a long time. She went really deeply into that process of dieting, working in the Shipibo lineage. She combines it with other practices that she studied, like somatic therapy, meditation. She brings groups to Niueirao still. So it was a really beautiful conversation. I think we went about 2.5 hours talking a lot about this work, plants, dietas, the Shipibo lineage, her work with somatic therapy. So I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think you all will get a lot out of it. If you're able to support this podcast, that's a really big help. Patreon is a really good way. There's a link in the show notes, but it's a really nice service where you can give for as little as $1 a month, and there's different tiers. And by giving, you also get something back, things like early access to shows, bonus material, Q&As, things like that. So if you're able to do that, that's greatly appreciated in helping me to continue to produce these episodes. To all the people who are part of Patreon, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. There's also the option of direct donating via PayPal, and I'll put a link in the show notes of that as well. And then if you're not able to do that, just going on the YouTube channel, subscribing to the show is a really big help, turning on the notification bell, liking the videos. Feel free to leave any comments in the comments section. And then with the audio version, going on Apple Podcasts, subscribing to the show, and leaving a starred rating and a review. So if you're able to do that, thank you very much to all the people who have done that. Thank you for supporting the show. So I think that's it. And without further ado, here is my conversation with Martina. It's really nice to see you. Thank you so much for coming on. So you're coming from Italy right now, which is that's where you're from originally, right? The north of Italy?
Yeah, exactly. Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm coming from a region close to the border to Austria, and we use so German, but we are Italian passport holders. We have Italian schools and German schools. And yeah, it's like an autonomy region. So my accent is German because my mother language is German. But yeah, it's a really beautiful region where I come from, a lot of nature. Back to the roots.
Yeah, so I met you originally in the Peruvian Amazon.
I had to come back from.
Sorry, we have a little bit of a delay, but
Right.
yeah. So I met you originally in the Peruvian Amazon, and I was working at a big plant medicine center there. You were working at another one, Niuerao. So what brought you originally from Italy down to the Amazon? When I guess I met you, it was probably like 2012, maybe 2013, something like that. It was quite a long time ago now. Had you been there for a while, or what ended up bringing you down to the Peruvian Amazon?
Yeah, so I came the first time to Peru in 2006. I was doing a volunteer program at the Andes, and I worked there in a social project. And I got really into that project and into like sustainable collaboration with in the project world. So I really got involved in that project and also started fundraising and building awareness about the situation of the people in Peru. And something touched me deeply when I came to Peru, and I didn't know what it was. I just felt something was about that country and about the people. And I met a wonderful person there that her name is Charo, and she was running that project. She's a nurse and she's a medicine woman from the Andes, and she worked a long time with Chipivos in Pucallpa for 6-7 years. She really back then, when they were starting to do vaccinations and educating the Chipivos about hygiene and healthcare. And that's where she got in touch with the medicine and via ayahuasca first. So I heard her talk about it, but I was not really still. I was curious about it, but I was not so. She just mentioned it, but I did not really go into that. So, and then I did a few years back forth. I still had a job in Italy here, so I always had this feeling I have to go back. I have to go more. Every year I went back and spent a couple of months there in the Andes, really helping and getting so much involved in and suffering a lot. And one day in 2009, I really asked Charo and said, "Tell me more about ayahuasca." And then she told me more about it, and then she said, okay, let's go. And we went in September 2009. And then I drank ayahuasca, I think 2 or 3 times, and it was quite intense. and I got a lot out of it, but I thought, that's it. I'm healed. Now I understand my life and it's over. And then I called my brother and said, I'm never going to do this anymore, but you should do it. And I'm just staying in the Andes. This is so great, you know. I feel like home. And okay. And then he went, and then I never did first. And he got deeper into the process. And then I realized when he was talking to me, I realized, oh, there is something, there's more. And I was still not, I realized also in my life, I was just beginning to heal my wounds. And that's when I went back. And that's when I actually decided to leave everything in Italy and to move. And I didn't know what I'm going to do, but I just left everything. Like I left my apartment, and I gave stuff away, and my job. It was a little hard for my dad at that time because he said, "What are you doing?" You know. And then, but I had falling, you know, when you feel like, oh, you have to go, even if you don't know where this path will lead you. But it's just this inner wisdom that you're following that is so potent and so strong, and you have this extra security, nothing can go wrong. And that's what I felt. And that's how everything then unfolded, because when I was the second time there, there was the talk about Niverau being founded, and my sister-in-law, my now sister-in-law, was involved, Vita, and Joe Tafur, our friend. And then it's just like we were talking to Ricardo, the Shipibo shaman, that was our maestro and is our maestro. And so it just like unfolded in a way that and then it just started that I was spending more and more time in the Amazon to start also doing plant diets.
Yeah, great.
And that's where I realized that the healing can go so much deeper.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any interest before working with ayahuasca? Did you have interest in kind of alternative medicine or healing or health or psychology, or was drinking ayahuasca for the first time really just something that came out of the blue for you?
Yeah, I had interest in having a better life for myself, and and I was not doing well at all. So I have been in therapy for like a long time before here in Italy, and I have been also on the antidepressants for like 5-6 years before. But so I tried different things. I have been always interested in homeopathics and in herbs and in stuff like that, because also my grandmother always, you know, here they were always talking about the teas. We have a lot of teas here that are good for different things, but just like the basic things. When I got really interested was in the Andes with my friend Charo, because she was using it, and she was also doing, and she is still doing reflexology, and and doing some Andean, some techniques that she learned uh, through the way how to heal with the with the herbs and the plants from the Andes, and so that was it. But I was never, I didn't do much for my body till then because I suffered from eating disorder for many years, and so I was not very connected to my body, and it just was not getting better, and I had this feeling I had to try something different, and then therefore I was interested in ayahuasca, and that was different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That changed a
And
lot.
what was, I mean, I know these experiences can be so personal, but you said that first couple of times you worked with ayahuasca, it was obviously very profound for you. You kind of felt like you were healed in a way. What do you sense was happening in those initial times where you worked with ayahuasca that made such a profound impact with you?
That in the second ayahuasca ceremony brought me back to my childhood trauma, that I was not aware of, or like I was not. I thought I had a feeling. I had something happen to me early on in childhood, but I did not recall or remember. But my body did. I felt that. And then ayahuasca really, I remember still, she told me, now I show you what happened. And then I saw it, and it was quite a lot to digest. And that was also the reason why I said, okay, I saw it now and I'm good. And that this is now also, in a way, it was also for me a shock, and I didn't know how to integrate this. And so, and I felt different. I felt healed, but I didn't know that there's so much to it, and it was the beginning for me for the healing, because I needed still to integrate and to realize how I can actually have a better life. And that is, I think, really important, because it's not only the vision, but also how can I transform, or how you would say, like, integrate all that from the vision then in the life, that it comes out that I have a better life quality. And I was still struggling with that, because I felt like, oh, is this something not still happening? And then I realized that the plant diet was really different and beneficial for me, like a longer extended period of time where you can connect with the spirit of a plant, and the plant guides you through the process and gives you all this like help and support in dealing with all that consequences that trauma might cause you.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
you found yourself working with these people like Joe Tafur, Ricardo, Sita.
Yeah.
How did that happen? I mean, probably some people who are listening to this and are kind of familiar with this work, they know of Niue Rao. It's
Yeah.
a very well respected center. They work with
Mm-hmm.
Ricardo, who's a Shipibo person. How did that kind of start? Because there's probably very few people in the world who are kind of part of the creation of a plant healing center in
Yeah.
that way. So was it something organic where you knew him and you
Yeah.
all had this mutual vision of like, hey, we should start something, or what was that like for you?
No, that was very, like you said, organic, and you would not, it's not something where you said, oh, I want to be part of this, and then it's just like happened in a way. I in the center where Ricardo worked, and he was talking to Ricardo, who wanted to have his own center, which his dream was to have Shipibo Center that is also like a really safe space for women, where women can come, and he knew he couldn't do it alone. So he was talking to Marcus, and then at that time Joe was there, and then they started to talk about it. And then I came in this during that time, and I met the first time my now sister-in-law and Joe. And then we were just having these conversations, and I already decided, okay, I'm going to Peru, and I leave everything. And then we were talking about, and I was working before in a hotel or in the tourism. And then Joe asked me one time also if I would be willing to come and help with administration. I said, yeah, sure. I did not know what that would be looking like. And then, but then there was a time where twists and turns were happening, and my brother was not being part of it anymore. And then also we lost everybody lost contact. And a year later, I was in Iquitos, and I occasionally bumped into Joe, and then on the street on my way to find the center, because I was still needing a healing, and I said I want healing. And then that was when the center just opened a month ago, and we were, and then I came there and had my first plant diet and slept in the Maloka on the floor, and there were no rooms, and just like really basic things. And then it just like then my brother came back, and it just like happened in a way. And then after a while it turned out, okay, they need more help. And then Marcus and me, we got more involved, and with translating and facilitating. And then at one point I took over the bookings for Niverau, and so I was the booking agent wherever I was. I was kind of then going back and forth between Andes, because I was still running the project in the Andes, the social project for children and teenagers, and raising awareness about sustainable support. So I was doing both things, and then all of a sudden, it just happened in a way. And then my brother and Svita built a house there, and so we were always like trying to spend also time together while working, and then we took turns, or somebody stepped in sometimes. Maybe Joe asked me, I have to go away, can you come? And then I came, and so it was just very organic. We tried to have it very organically, and I spent a lot of time with my sister-in-law actually there too. But we both, two women in the Shipibo world, and which was a very bonding experience for me and her as a woman, and continue, and also starting to learn learn with the master plans and dieting while we were working and running the center, and dealing also with cultural differences and language translation barriers. And it was a really deep, profound, beautiful and intense experience. And
so I think many people listening to this are familiar with kind of the plant world and what that entails, things like dieting. But for people who aren't, and I'm sure, a lot of people have maybe worked with ayahuasca, but they're not really that familiar with the origins of it and how one really begins to do this work. So Maybe you could talk a little bit about like what that process was like for you, kind of an apprenticeship, and what is a
Yeah.
dieta, and why would one do that, and what are the types of things that come up in that process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, master plant diet, the Shipibo tradition, is a process of of a of a deep spiritual and healing um, experiences. Um, the diet, there are so many master plants in the Amazon forest, and ayahuasca is one of those. It's the mother, like la madre, like they call it in Spanish. And in the Shipibo tradition, when you diet, then you have to prepare your body for for a diet, and that means you cleanse it with a vomitivo, like a purgative, and you kind of make your house, you clean out your house to invite the spirit of the plant in your house and make it a comfortable place, because it's all about connection to the plant spirit. When we drink ayahuasca in the ceremony, we connect with the plant, with the spirit of the plant. And when we additionally have a master plant diet, so we drink every day, or it depends on which master plant you're dieting. You drink that plant, which is not a psychedelic. It doesn't have any psychedelic effects. And in the really first ceremony, after that purgativo, vomitivo, the shaman connects you with the echo to the plant, like he connects your mind and your heart and your soul, your body to that plant, and that is the beginning of the dieta. And the dieta requires also a lot of things that a lot of people find hard to do, which is not eating delicious food. Like Ricardo always says, we don't serve good food here. We serve diet food. So it's no salt and no sugar and no fat and very little vegetables, like only beans and lentils, but major fish and plantains and potatoes and rice, a little bit of apple and bananas. And every shaman has his own diet program. At Niverao, Ricardo is pretty strict, like no eggs either. Like he feels like the less you indulge in a way, or like give more options to eat, the better the connection is. That's how his take on is. And so at Niverao, minimum days for the dieta was 10 days for people in the healing process. And it's a good start to know how this works, because I always say with the master plant, it's like to getting to know a person, a friend. It's a relationship, and so you have to get to use how to work with it and how to deal with it. And these plants, they can help you and bring up also a lot of maybe feelings, and they work in the dreams, and they bring a lot maybe up memories, and it's sometimes very uncomfortable because a lot of maybe things that have been covered and not been really coming to the surface, they can come to the surface with the master plant diet. And the beauty of this is that when they come to the surface, we can clean them in the ceremony with the icaros, because the icaros, they have that healing power, the energy. It's plant medicine that is channeled, and those are removing all these energies that are blocking our bodies, our lives, and master plant diets, they can be done in so many ways. And for the apprenticeship, it's always a longer time period. And this is when then at one point also a melody or the singing comes in, because the singing or the song is the plant that a person diets. And that's kind of the gift that the plant is giving you by all these restrictions for it, because there's also no sexual activity, and if you go on very strict, it should be really isolated. When you have an apprenticeship, it's no touching and not a lot of contact with people. So, but at one point, you will receive a song, and that's a really magical and beautiful and unbelievable experience. And I would never thought that could happen, even to me. But it did, and it happens to many people.
So when you speak of this idea of connecting to the spirit of a plant, again, I think for people who've done this work, that makes sense, maybe somehow to some degree, if that's possible. But
yeah.
But for many people, if they've never experienced that, I mean, I think we all know, like you're talking about homeopathy or herbal medicine, or I mean, even allopathic medicine, most of it is actually plant derived. So even when we're taking a pill, you know,
Right.
if we're working with aspirin or something, I mean, that's the bark of the willow tree. You know, many antibiotics, things like penicillin, they come from fungi. So, you know, most medicine, or what we would think of medicine, is somehow plant derived. But I think most people, when they think about medicine, they think more in this allopathic way of working, or herbalism, where if I have a particular ailment, then I take a plant or a medicine and it cures that on the physical level.
Right.
So I think for a lot of people, this idea of connecting to the spirit of a plant sounds very like woo-woo, new agey. How would you describe that? And obviously, kind of like anything, like there, we have I think a saying in English, like, you know, you can describe honey, you know, you can describe how it tastes, you can describe what it looks like, but until you actually try it, it's, so I know it's a little hard to describe, but maybe to like a layperson, someone who hasn't done this work, what are you speaking about, and why is that important when you're talking about connecting to the spirit of a plant?
Yeah, this is a really good point. Also, it is a spiritual experience, I would say. Like it is, but it is actually also a very human experience for me, because it's a kind of reaching out for help, reaching out for support. And maybe people can relate to that in a way, like that is how it starts. Like I reached out to the plant to say, please help me to heal my deepest wounds. And then that is for me the first initial thing of a connection. longing for a better life, longing for, I want to um, take care of my problems. And then the plant is the pathway, is the helper, is that support. So like in other ways, when you want to heal and something and you reach out for a practitioner or you reach out for somebody, so that could be like the doctor in a way, this plant spirit. And they call it also, like the Shipiros, they call it also, and wisdom people. So I would say it's that. And then there is the experience of when you feel a presence. When you drink the plant and you prepare yourself that you want to do or go on this journey with this plant, and then you have this connection in the ceremony, with the shaman connects you to the plant. I feel afterwards, oh, there is a presence, there is something, And actually, I liked it to feel, okay, where do I feel it in my body? And sometimes I dieted plants that I really felt in my body here, and then I dieted plants that I more felt the air around it. And it's like you become very perceptive, like with the diet, like not eating whatever you want to eat, which is also a delicious distraction sometimes in life. I feel sad and then I have my chocolate or something salty, and this is not there anymore. It's just you with what you carry inside. And the presence of the plant can be then very strong perceived in the body or around you. And then also in the dreams, so many people also, when we had in Ibarao, they were like really telling us, oh, the dreams are really changing. We had also people who never drank ayahuasca but had a plant diet, and they had amazing dreams. And they were saying, wow, I never had dreams like this. So this presence shows up in different ways. Or this presence can happen then that you have an awareness or an insight, even just during the day. And those are then, that's then when I talk about the collaboration. But I think the initial thing is that reaching out and just being also maybe really raw and saying, I need help, I need support, which is for me the most potent thing in the healing process, because then you're ready to go to the places that you were frightened to see at first and to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes something?
Yeah. Sometimes people speak about in the dieting process that there's this differentiation between a diet we would do for healing and a diet we would do for learning, like an apprenticeship diet or a diet for healing something specific. Do you think there's a differentiation there, or it's really the same thing, or it just depends on the intention in which you're going to the diet for?
I have to speak for myself because I never had an apprentice diet. So to speak, for me, it was always to get better in a way. So it was kind of me search. And with me search, it came out that I learned a lot. And I learned a lot that I can now share with other people and support other people, because I have been through. And so I never made that distinction for myself. Of course, there are different things like longer diets. You need some extended period of diet to receive the songs and to have a better connection. And so that is one thing. But just for the intention, for me personally, it was all about, I wanted to learn about myself, and I wanted to understand myself better and how I can relate better to myself, and also then to other people, and how I can manifest that in life and have a really a better life quality and deal better with challenging situations. And that is actually what I brought in every diet, and in a way like teach me how to do this. And then also in the apprentice way, when you learn the song, you can even ask and you can ask, and the spirit that they help you to learn how to remove things. And so for me it was like very blending in my personal experience. I didn't want to like say, oh no, I'm just here to learn singing and how to move the energy. So I don't want to like deal with what I'm just feeling right now. So for me, that was always my primary intention. And there were like different people, like different approaches to it, but for me, I'm so happy because I just learned and continue learning so much about myself and being and how I am in the world, and how I can relate to other people, and ultimately also then how I can support other people. So that was my experience.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the Shipibo lineage, the word for ayahuasca is uni, and someone who works with that is unaya, and often that's translated
Exactly.
to something like you were describing, like knowledge or self-knowledge or wisdom, kind of in
Wisdom, yeah.
yeah, this idea of gnosis, which I think is exactly what you're describing. One thing you mentioned was this idea of the ikaro, which is something that's very, very unique to some of the traditions of the Amazon, it seems, which is part of the healing process is actually singing to someone. And again, I think for a lot of people who maybe haven't experienced that, that seems quite strange that a huge part of the healing process is sitting in front of someone and having them sing to you. So how would you describe that process? Like what is someone singing? Because even a lot of people who've maybe worked with these plants, they've experienced the ikaro, but obviously it's being sung in a different language, and many times people feel like they understand the words, but in the tradition you're working with, the Shipibo, obviously they're often singing in Shipibo. Now, it may be even a more antiquated version. They would say often these are like ancestral words that aren't even necessarily used on a daily basis. But how would you describe, like, what is the function of the Ikardo, and what are those words, or what the intention behind the Ikardo? What is that really trying to do?
Yeah. This is like it's a treatment. It's a treatment. The song, the Icaro. That's how I would like to describe it. And I love that so much in the Shipibo tradition because it's so unique and it's so personal, and it has a lot to do for me with love and support, and I dedicate myself now to that person. Personally, I am here for this person in this moment. I hold space for this person, and I am just there for this person. And every song is different, which is like, this is not like, oh, I sing this song to that person and this song. No, when the shaman sings to to the pasajero, or we call a pasajero like somebody who passes by. When the shaman sings, that is they have like the intention, maybe, oh yeah, this is a person who was dealing with this trauma or with that accident or with this problem. But then they start singing and they sing what they see, like they sing what the visions are revealing, and then they're removing the energy. So the plant medicine that the shaman dieted before is acting, or it's like, yeah, it's acting through that vibration and song and the words to the person and removes that energy. The song, the Shipibo language is, yeah, like you said, they might not always use those words in their own like day-to-day life. So they're very like also based on energy types or on energy concepts, or also on concept in shamanism, how you work, like for instance, like when you call back a soul, or when you when you kind of want to center everything in the system. So you work through different systems, and the words, they are like, how I learned it too, is like it's very poetic at one point. Like they really then also sing like, I am going, they sing maybe to something to your mind, and then they say, I'm going to help you. Like there's always this kind of also permission asking or giving within the song in a way. And at least Ricardo always taught me that you always have to respect the world of the other people and of the other person, and you cannot enter and and fix everything at once, and you also have to have permission, and maybe also talking and seeing if this person wants to clean this. And because it doesn't also work if you don't want to, somebody's maybe holding on to something or not ready, or like it's a very, yeah, it's still this, like you're also in a poetic way. They are also saying sometimes, oh, I am going now to call this and the light in, or this and this plant in, and then I am going to wash your soul. And they have like all this like ways to say this. And so many people sometimes, when they have experience, when they receive the song, they don't understand the words, but sometimes they feel like they understood what was happening. And sometimes people say, I understood what he was doing, and it's kind of this different consciousness, this different wisdom. Like I mentioned maybe before when I said I just knew, like you cannot even explain with words, but for you it's just so clear that this is the right thing, that is just like happening right now. And I so love this way of working because it is so personal. And it's so personal, and it's like, this is just for you, this song. And this is, I just really help you right now with this healing process. Just that that setting in a way is for me personally already very healing, because so many people experience abandonment when they have been in a difficult situation. And I just really like that approach in the Shipibo tradition.
Hmm. You use this term master plant, and kind of this idea that maybe we could also say like a teacher plant, that there's certain plants that have the ability to
Yeah.
teach or to heal. So
Hmm.
I think a lot of people have this question of, if the plant is doing the teaching, then why would I need to work with the shaman, with the curandero? If all of the knowledge is coming from this plant, why couldn't I just take the plant and experience all of the benefits? Because in this tradition, like the Shipibo, or many traditions all over the world, that shaman or the guide was seen as a fundamental pillar, that they were really essential, and people wouldn't
Yeah.
just work with these plants on their own. It was
Hmm.
very seen that
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
needed a guide or a person to hold that space.
Hmm.
So I guess what do you think is the difference between the knowledge that's coming from the plant, and then also the person who's holding that space, and what is the shaman doing? Like, what is their role?
Hmm. Okay. So the shaman um, is I would say, like, he with the songs and with, like, the in the ceremonies, like, he is um creating the container, or like the right settings or the right conditions for the plant to work. Because um, especially in when you haven't been able to experience it before, yeah, they teach you, but you have to learn how to work with them. And the shaman already has that experience because he died it so many years, and that's what he can give. Then what he can give you, he can uh, he always, like, centers the diet, and also some plants don't have always, like, only a light side, but they have also the shitana, like the dark side. And this side needs to be cleaned, and that is the job of the shaman, to make sure that you diet and get the teaching from the pure pura medicina, from the pure medicine. And and it sometimes it's not easy to understand when you not clean the shitana and away, and then you think sometimes, oh, this is my teaching, what the plant told me. But that's where the shaman comes in, that he can also in tell you when you might have a vision that you don't know what it means. Also, that he can tell you, oh, this could be that, and this could be that, and then try this or try that. So that is also in the learning process very important. Of course, the Shipibo shaman, or at least Ricardo, he's not hanging out with you there all day. Like, when you have an apprentice diet, he's like, go in your tambo. When you don't feel good, come to me, and I help you. And if you have a question, I help you. And then learn Shipibo and try this and try that. So, and it's not that it's like, it's not that that idea of, what many Westerners had. We had that in Niverau too, that they come and then they get, like, all this, like, day wisdom from from a Shipibo shaman. But them too, they're pretty, uh, private, right? Like, when you can have a laugh with them, and you have kind of silly conversations which they love. But it's not that you would, like, have these deep conversations about the meaning of life. I mean, at least with my experience, in my experience. And they just really push you to go on your own journey, but still that you stay on track. I think it's that you stay on track with the plant, and even also in the healing process. And also you, or at least I need, or I want somebody in the diet also to help me to clean certain things that are coming up. And even if I learn, I can help that, or I can learn how to do it. But then sometimes you need also help that really, comes from another shaman directly. And of course, then in a process, everybody starts then when you are like further on to diet, to do your own diet and have these little experiences, but that's then further on in the process. But I would say it's important to have at first a good shaman that you can trust, that he is kind of giving you the right direction in the diet.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned this interesting idea of certain plants have a light and a dark, and even in this world, the kind of the shamanic world, or I mean, even in most religions, they speak of the same thing, that there's kind of this battle between light and dark, and in shamanic traditions, they would say, there's the curandero and there's the brujo, there's the one who's healing and the one who's harming.
Yeah.
It's obviously such a big subject, and it's obviously very personal, but what have you found through your experience, kind of this idea of light and dark, and good and bad, and people who are trying to help and people who are trying to potentially harm? Do you think it's very literal, or it's more metaphorical, or it's something in between? Kind of what are your thoughts now, for because you've been working now for probably over a decade? What do you find when people are speaking of that light versus dark?
Yeah. So therefore, also now I think the Shipibos want to go away from that term shaman, because shaman could be either like the one who he harms, or who is just using. So they go more on what you just called before, the onaya, like from onan, wisdom, that they want to say the ones that know, the person that knows. And because I think that is a huge topic, and people want to make a difference. I'm not a brujo, or he's a brujo. I'm a curandero, So curandero is a nice word, I think, because it means like, you help the person that helps to heal. Light and dark it is present all the time, I would say, in the world, in the human beings, and curanderos, shamans are human beings. We are not they are not any different in a way. Like, they are human beings, they're really like learning and on their path, but also they have also their wounds, they have their traumas, and they have their resentments, and they have their would say like the things that they're struggling with. And my experience is when they are not able to deal with their own struggles, it's easier to go into that dark side that you're speaking about. And that's why I also said to you before, I don't want to make a distinguish about how you say, like, I don't want to like separate healing and learning in that way, because one really big learning that I got teaching from the plants was that I have the responsibility, and my job is always to take care of my thoughts, of my heart, and how, especially how I relate to others, and to correct that. And that is for me being also, in the light, like you can make mistakes and stuff, but that you are really aware what is my impact. And not everybody can do this, because then they have personal experiences and are hurt, and that's how I perceive it. That these energies are then used from a wounded place. Actually, I would say like Buchers are really wounded people that cannot see anymore another way out or how to heal themselves, because they're just covered in this thought. And I just feel, this is the same thing in the healing. Okay, you can have a really difficult life. I understand that. I so understand when people are suffering and when they are in pain, and so many things happen without, that are not the thought. They are not the responsibility of those persons that are suffering, but there is one responsibility or the possibility to go on a path and heal that, and not maybe always blame it or be then a victim and play it then out in that way. And I feel sometimes in the Buchers this is happening, but this is just my perception. How I see it, and I think that is happening, that they are kind of then lost, that they didn't like they lost the pathway to how they are feeling better with themselves, and then they project it to somebody else.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
You mentioned this idea of, like even for yourself is being really mindful of your thoughts, and that seems to be a really big pillar in this work. I mean, even often in the process of dieting, one is often told, like, be really mindful of your thoughts, of your words, really stay towards the light rather than towards the darkness, the negativity, the blaming, the being a victim. And it's interesting because even the word psychedelic, it means like the mind revealed, or the mind made manifest. How much do you think these plants are really trying to affect our mind? Because obviously there's a physical benefit to all of these plants, the medicinal benefit, but it's often spoken of. There's and again, these distinctions are not necessarily true or untrue, but the level of the physical, that these plants can heal on the physical, but then there's the mental, emotional, and then the spiritual level. So what do you think is the role that these plants are really playing with the mind? Because it seems like the deeper we get into this work, in a sense, that's where so much of the struggle or the suffering comes from, is this place of the mind, the thoughts we have, the words we use, the way we look at the world. So I know that's kind of a big question, but what is your experience, I guess, with plants and how they're working on the mind?
This is a huge, really interesting question. On ayahuasca, you can get also confused a lot. Things are happening. Like I'm just now talking about when you drink the psychedelic and ayahuasca, there can be like a lot of thoughts. Like Ricardo says always, oh, you can have 50 thoughts. Oh no, even 100 thoughts at once. So and that's what he actually then also taught, is that like the important thing is the concentration. Like to concentrate and to gather your energy in the mind and to focus on the light. And there is a lot of benefits that can happen when the plants are working on your mind, and I especially had this experience with coca diet that really helped me to center more my mind and thoughts. It's just like I had really that experience that like this whole like dark things are coming out of me, and it felt so different, so clearer. So sometimes, and that is what a lot of people also experience in the process, that then they are really clear at one point in the diet, and that things are looking clearer, that your awareness is clearer, and you have a different consciousness, like you have a different way of seeing things. And especially, I think a lot of people, what I saw in Niverau and also on my side, like sometimes you are so stuck in a mind pattern or in something that you are so convinced of, and then the plant can give you a different perspective and a different angle, and that is such a huge experience that your whole thing can shift. And I think in other psychedelics that is happening too, like and that actually then connects a lot the mind with the emotion. Like I had, or the memories that are coming up that we have so many people sometimes in Niverau that they were coming because they had a struggle. A friend of mine came because her mother was alcoholic, and then eventually she committed suicide. And she said to me, I have no memory whatsoever. I just know her struggling. And then she drank ayahuasca, and these memories came up, these good memories with her mom. Like, so, and that totally shifted her also emotional relationship with her mom, although her mom was already gone. So the mind got, the plants were helping to access in the mind or in the memory part, these bits of memories that have not been accessible anymore before. And that is what happens also, like it happened to me with this, with a lot of traumatic memories that have been so locked up in the mind, but then they came up again. So it can go in both ways. And as you know for sure too that few people or that are struggling with mental problems that are not so they should not drink psychedelics or like ayahuasca in particular, because sometimes we can really bring up all the chemical, like can how you say, like not balance out the chemical, or something is happening in the mind that they are just not being then in a good mental state. So that is also what can happen, So therefore, it's always be important to be careful. It's not like, oh, the plant medicine is for everybody. I would say it has to be, very well thought about it, and it has to be very well checked and screened, and it's not for every mental condition. But overall, I experienced like this really interesting interesting events, that the mind can be really also clear and not so not so ramped up with a lot of like stuff that we are like always carrying with that. But it's ultimately then bringing you back into that connection with the emotion and the body. I think that sometimes when we're struggling with the mind problem, it's just like disconnect, and then we are like having this, we're living just up here, but then when our whole energy is up there, we don't realize the people that are really living up there, they don't have that connection that, oh, I have a body too. But the body can give you so many information, but it's like listening to the body, because I did also this somatic experiencing training, and I simply with my mind, because and I could learn some kind of exercises when you bring it back into your body, and more listening also to the sensations, to the body. And of course the mind is part of the body, but it's more that, to have more this collaboration going on that should be holistic in a way. But yeah, I don't know if that is that what you wanted to know about the mind.
Yeah.
Plants.
So how would you describe your process? Was it something also that just kind of began to flow organically, and you just found yourself doing these dietas, and something in you just kept wanting to go deeper? And was there a certain point where you're like, okay, I've had enough, and now I'm ready to work or to do something else? Or it's something that's still in flux and flow, and you're finding that balance? um, yeah, I guess just kind of what was that process like for you?
Yeah, the same way, like it was kind of organically, right? So I was there at the center, and you help and you work, and then when you're just there, then also I've wanted to diet and always to go deeper, because I realized the deeper I went, I realized that my traumas have been very complex and very yeah, the consequences also, I had to unravel everything, and that took some time, and I got more interested in it the deeper I went, because I felt, okay, I'm getting so far, so I want to have still uh more more quality of being myself, and having finding myself, and having that feeling that, oh, I'm okay being myself, and it's beautiful, like this steps in that way. And then it just happened in a way that, as I told you, I never thought that I would apprentice. It just kind of happened, and it happened in a way. I had a really personal experience, kind of came in and said, so now you have to do this, and I was saying no. I said, no, what is this? No, I know. I said, you don't understand. I want to heal myself, and I'm good. Because my sister-in-law, she was always very um very interested in it, and she was already in it, and she was actually also very motivating me, like, and I really thank her for that. But I was very, slow in this, and then I kind of accepted that invitation, and I said, okay, where does it bring me? And then it just started happening, and I was really lucky that I could actually, because I was working there, then I could also work help in ceremony, and starting to practice under the wings of Ricardo. And he's somebody who always said, go out and sing, and make your experience. So that was really where I felt then really, also safe, to do it, because he was running the show, and I I could just jump in and have an experience of how I can support somebody. And so that is how it happened. And then eventually, you get into it, and you see what is possible, and you see, that this is an endless world. This is an endless world, and we are so small. Like, this consciousness is tremendous, big, and there is, there's so much possible, and then you get like really excited about it. And I got excited about it, and I still am, and I say okay, and then I'm excited to learn the next thing. And it's just like, that's actually how I feel in general about me and my life. Like, it's so exciting to grow, and it's like always possible. Like, there's no limitation, and that is so comforting to me. Like, oh wow, I have always more possibilities, and that's really exciting for me.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned this idea in the beginning of being two women in this kind of the middle of the Amazon, and working with Shipibo and these cultural differences. What are some of the things you're referring to? Just I mean, the set and the setting was just so different, or like what was that experience like for you?
Yeah. So I in Peru generally, like, because I lived also in the Andes, like, I know the culture is very masculine, like um patriarchal. How do you say patriarchal?
Patriarchal, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I can't say that word. Um, so for some years, um, and um, and that is something that, yeah, it's a huge difference. And at first you don't really notice it. But then when you really spend a lot of time, we have been, respected and things, but we have been women, even with the workers, they have been respected, but it's just like, we just noticed when Joe was there, they were always referring more to him, than to Svita in a way. It's just like a very natural thing for them. And when we were there, and then especially in shamanism, like, it can be a little hard as a woman, um, to get in there. And yeah, they have that in their culture, that they kind of sometimes see the woman as the weak woman, and they cannot be so strong, and they cannot handle the energies. Their body is not handling their energies as well, and the diet, they're getting weaker, and like, so some kind of stereotypes like that. And sometimes, yeah, it was it was a little, that is some cultural difference also in the work, with them, or like they're too soft, and they're not like uh, strong enough or whatever. But it was always that, not always really outspoken, but you could really notice it, and you could really feel it. And I felt sometimes intimidated also, in the Maloka, when when a lot of male shaman or curanderos were like there. And also another thing what you mentioned, I trusted Ricardo, but also what you mentioned before, when there were coming shamans in working, uh, you don't know these people, and so you have to guard yourself in the ceremony and energetically sometimes. It's like not the first thing, because you're so open and you want to heal. So it's very important, to be like cautious when you meet new people, to see how they relate to you, and also energetically how they approach you. And so it was that there were so sometimes the struggles, right? But it was not that nothing, um, um, would say like really like huge happened. It was just like this, like conversations that were coming up, or like or things where we were just like me and Svita, then really thinking, oh, this is interesting. We cannot. This is not. You cannot move. We cannot move as women from in a Western world, right? It's just not. It's not. It's not happening. And and that is the reality. And that's the reality that I found in the Andes as well when I was when I was running the social project as well. So I knew that already. But it is it is a learning curve, because also you wanna like step up for yourself, but these like cultural things, like they don't understand. Like you would say, in the Western world, like you cannot. It's so hard to come in and change their way of being, and I don't even know if that is the right thing, like, to do. But it was of course really nice to share this with Svita together. It really was a bonding experience for us. Uh, than having that alone. When you like there alone as a woman, that is a little bit more, I would say, challenging. Way. On the other hand, the women are really like coming to you, and telling their problems and stories. So on the other hand, you're like really seen by the women, and they like looking for even support. They would always like share the whole uh drama stories from their relationships with you. And so that was also interesting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, every culture is going to have their different ideas about genders and their roles and their strengths and weaknesses. Are there things after having done this work that maybe like ideas that you had before coming that have shifted on these differences between genders, or has it strengthened your ideas? I mean, like one example that comes to mind, which I always found quite funny, but also very interesting, was someone had asked me to buy a pipe for his partner, who was a woman, and so I went to the two Spibo who I was working with, and the guy, the maestro, handed this one pipe. He's like, "Ah, yeah, this will be a good pipe for her." And the female maestra, the woman came and she looks at it and she goes, no, 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 that's too big. That's a man's pipe. You need this pipe, which is smaller. And she's like, this is the one that's good for her. And I found that very interesting. I mean, there's a lot of layers to that. But I guess have things shifted for you in any way in kind of these gender roles, and do you see that there are differences? I mean, obviously, as individuals, we're all very different in our paths, in our powers, in our abilities, and what we're good at, what we're not so good at. But do you notice that perhaps there are differences in this world of shamanism between kind of the energies that men carry versus the energies that women carry? Or do you think it's just very individual, and it really depends on the person that we're speaking about?
Like in the work, I feel the balance is important, because I feel it needs both. It needs like the female energy as a curandera, and the masculine energy as a curandero. Like I would say, if you would have the a really like complete um experience, or for me, like in the healing experience, it is uh I would say very important for both, for men and for women who are sitting in ceremony. It's just like the I would say the holistic thing that can happen in a healing, that you have both, and that you can that the pasajeros have the opportunity to kind of heal with both energies, or also have the opportunity to kind of what is more important. Than I remember last time when I brought a group down there, then they were specific, then also men asking, can you please come to me and sing for me? Like also men are really have a benefit from like the female energy in the ceremony. And this gender role for me, it brought me more, in that cultural context. It's so hard because this is how they run for a long time in the Andes. I had also a funny experience when I was like in my family in the Andes, and I thought the man was really progressive, and he was sitting next to the stove, like here, and here was the soup, and his wife next, like really on the other side of the table, and he was like, he could have done like this with the soup, but he said, please serve me soup, and she had to go all the way down to give him the soup that has been just next to him, but that is just the way how this is the role, like, and I was like, what? in at home in Italy, we would say, come on, but this is something that they have done forever, and this is, I think in the cultural context, they have to change it. Right. Like, I feel like I'm not, like, I have to take care that I have been respected and that I am respected. That is okay, and I can do that, and I can have my boundaries. That is important, and that is my responsibility. But that is actually what I learned in that experience in the Andes and in the Amazon. But I cannot come in like an activist and change the gender role in the indigenous communities. That is not how I feel. That is my right or my job. I feel that should happen within their own culture. But I think by taking care of my boundaries and giving and taking care of my respect, I already can set example, and I can already, maybe inspire to have, more of this for women there. And the other thing with that is what I really thought about the gender, and also what it happened to me. It's like that it kind of pushed me to define my own womanhood. And that's what I talked a lot with Rita about, in a way. We can define my own womanhood. So what is my my most potent part of being a woman, and I am not a really like feisty person right away. Like, I'm more soft. So I felt, okay, then that's my superpower. Like somebody else or a woman. Like, I think that is what I learned. Like, how am I as a woman in this world, and how do I want to manifest this, and how can I manifest it? Like, really bringing it back to myself and own it for myself and say like, okay, this is me and this is how I walk in this world, and this is what my beliefs are as a woman, and that is what I stand for. And so that's actually then in the end where I was really grateful, because it pushed me like, no, I'm never going to be um, like the super like another curandero, a scipivo curandero, like the renegade style or whatever. I'm not this, but I have my own, and this is how it works. And as long as I work from my heart with that, that is the most powerful thing I can do for me and for others.
Mm-hmm. One of the stories, you may have heard it, but I mean, there's many, but one of the stories that I often hear with kind of the origin of uni, of ayahuasca, because it's, I'm sure many people know, but if they don't, the ayahuasca brew is a mixture of two plants. And in Shipibo, they would call it uni, and the two plants are nishi, which is the vine, the ayahuasca vine, and usually kawa or chacruna, which is the plant. And they would often say that the vine is the masculine energy, and the female energy is the kawa. And when you combine those, you get uni, or knowledge. So it's this duality. And they would say, which is interesting, because even on a scientific level, it seems to be what's happening, which is they would say the ayahuasca gives or the masculine gives the mariación. It gives the effect, or it allows the feminine to work, and the feminine is that which gives the vision, or that which gives the light. And either of those by themselves don't have the whole power. You need both to be able to experience wisdom. And you were talking about this idea, which I find very interesting, which is like finding your own power, finding your own strength. What does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be a curandera? What do you think is that balance of, like if we take that story, that there are these two forces, there's the masculine energy, there's the female energy, and that the wisdom is combining those two, and yet we're all individuals, and we all carry to some degree both of those forces inside of us. Potentially men carry more of the masculine, women carry more of the feminine. What is that balance between, for you, like honoring the inherent qualities that are in us, and at the same time, because so much of healing is about bringing balance. I mean, that's like what holistic medicine means, is coming into a wholeness. So what do you think is that balance between honoring the strengths we have, working on those, developing those, and then at the same time, the places where maybe we're out of balance, also working on those? And this may be kind of a strange question, but do you think it's that we need to be in like a 50-50 balance, or it's really honoring the strengths we have, really developing those, but then at the same time trying to fill in the areas where we're maybe lacking, where we're out of balance?
I think it the one thing doesn't exclude the other. Like I feel like it goes like the same, like contemporary. When you kind of find your own power within, and you can kind of always rely on that, and you connect to that can help you to balance out the other things that you're lacking, or that needs to be still healed or need to be completed. Like I feel like this all, I think when you, and this is for like, yeah, everybody, it's like to find your own wisdom, your own. That is what I had one time in one of my diets that came like as a question: what is the most powerful force of your soul? Find that. Find that, and that is yours. It is already there. You just have to connect with it, and you have to strengthen it, and you have to take care of it. And when you have this power, with that power in that, like as a foundation, bring that into everything. Bring that into, your daily life. Bring that into your relationships. Bring that into your own healing. When you feel defeated, when you feel like I don't want to do this anymore, I am done. And am I not done yet? Or is there, why is something else is like coming my way again, and why you have to struggle so much? Don't forget then the most powerful force of your soul, and this is something that everybody has. And I think then, especially then, that can even help you even more to find, bring no more balance into your healing process by being more whole. That journey to being whole in the healing process, it's a long one, and sometimes we fall back, and sometimes we don't feel whole anymore. But then, it's not linear. It's just like coming, and then something else is coming up. But I think that with this superpower that everybody can find inside them, this is the number one thing that you can rely on. And the plants help me to look into that. And you can have many other ways to find that. I believe that they are not only the way with the plants.
Yeah, I think that actually brings me to the next question, which is, obviously this is, working with plants is a very specific path. And as you mentioned, it can have amazing, tremendous benefits, but also, as you mentioned, it's maybe not for everybody. What are there other traditions or other paths that you found for yourself that can really complement this work, or even replace it in a way that you also find that have been very powerful for you?
Yeah, like for me, it has been very powerful when I started the somatic experiencing training by Peter Levine in LA, because I was at that time in the jungle, I remember, and I was working on myself, but then I thought, what is actually happening with me? What actually happened with me when I had a trauma? I was really interested in that. And then I read the books of Peter Levine that ultimately led me to that experience of the training, where I learned so much about the nervous system. And I still continue learning. It's like a whole world that really it's so beneficial for me. And also when I work in integration with people, I use a lot of tools with that to bring it back into the body. Or even when I bring groups to the jungle, doing some exercises where they can feel their body, and maybe they are useful in the ceremony. So I believe there's a way or a path for everybody. Like you said, everybody has to find their own way. Like with plant medicine, it is also very deep and intense, and not many people are really ready sometimes to really go that way. So maybe they need some other guidance and some other ways. Like for me, the somatic experiencing, the approach, including the body and noticing the nervous system and what's actually happening, and just how tremendously. And those two things are really that changed for me, because they are like so beneficial, and I like to combine those two. But there are many people that that they cannot work with psychedelics, but they find other ways, like even only through meditation. And I also, since last year, I also got into the Joe Dispenza meditation. So I am also practicing those, I found them also, for me personally, beneficial, but um, it's a good way also maybe afterwards of experiencing an integration or some things. But there are many, many ways, I guess, to find it. It is hard to find what helps you. I think that is really, and many people struggle with that. I did. I I was 34 years old till I thought, oh no, why did I not found this before? I did find this before. You know, that feeling like I could have saved 15 years or something like that. But this was my process. This was my journey to get there, right? So, um, I see that that for many people might be really hard to try different things, and to find what is really resonating with them. I feel also what really is helpful in the healing process usually is that when you find somebody that you can trust, uh, you need to feel safe foremost to start a healing process. And because so much of the trauma happened because you were not safe and nobody was there. So it's all about, for me, about support and safety. Like, and you support, and you feel supported by a practitioner, and that you feel safe in order to heal and to expand the capacity to then to be able to cope with life better. So, um, yeah, so that's what I work with, those two things now. And I'm in somatic experiencing. There is also a touch work included that I found that so beneficial, and I wanna hopefully this year learn more about it. It is specific touch work in specific areas of the body, where the diaphragms are, where a lot of the surviving energy gets stuck, and it is especially for people who are sometimes, uh, it depends. You have to see how the person reacts to touch, etc. But it can be beneficial to release that really stored energy of like self-protective response that has not been completed. So that people can really have a different breathing or something going on. And then this year also for me personally, what I got into, what was really helpful for me was transformational breath work as a client. Like I am also finding that very beneficial for myself.
How would you describe the transformational and also somatic therapy? Because somatic therapy seems to be something that's getting quite popular. You mentioned the touch aspect of it, but
yeah.
how, if someone is interested in that, what is that process like when you're doing that work?
The somatic. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. You said when I do the somatic, yeah. So the process is that we as a practitioner, you work with your client. You give the client the opportunity to tell the story, but that the body tells the story, not only the words. And that's sometimes what I say to my clients, like, okay, we have that story, but also let us include the body in this story, because the body might even tell us a different story. So it's like breaking down in a way the story, and always bringing it back into the body. Like you would tell me something, and I would say, okay, as you're telling me this now, what is actually going on in your body? And then we kind of scan, okay, but sometimes you can say body, what kind of body, is happening too, as many people are really numb. But then are different exercises that you can do to kind of feel more your body, and also that is kind of a whole journey, because you can go into these tensions or constrictions and ask how they look like, if they have a color, if they have a shape or texture. So it's all about bringing all this also in there, and then also kind of through directing and also like following, you kind of bring the client to also noticing other parts of the body. And then it's always about also maybe seeing that there is a deactivation happening, because sometimes, somebody can be really in a sympathetic charge, and then there should be always a deactivation happening, like a pendulation through, like a flow, and always bringing it also awareness, and also a big part is educating how the nervous system is working, because so many people don't understand what's going on. They just feel like something is not working with my body. I'm always getting so anxiety when I do this and that. And then when you just really give them the education, your body is this and this, that. And so, that is a huge part of it, because they become more aware of their body and they understand their body more. So the whole thing is also for me that they get into the collaboration with their body. And so many times we have like, my body's not working as I want, and it's this and that, but they are like, the body's always giving us signs that something is not okay. And then when we give the space, and also slowing down in the process, sometimes it's always slowing down a movement. So when you slow down, there can be more space created. So especially also in the touch work, when we touch the certain part, you can really change the physiology of the body, because when they release the tension, it's really tight, then the tissues, they become more space, and there's more flow, there's more oxygen, and things are coming more in alignment. So it's all about being more in alignment. Also in a session where we like work with all this, like with the activation and activation, and then also a big part is to orient in the space and to notice what you notice, and also noticing what kind of color or texture or anything is having any effect in my body, and what it means, or what kind of memories are coming up. So it's a whole process. It's kind of, including all this, information that the body has. Because it's a vast, has so much information. The body has the memory of everything, like the mind forgets, but the body doesn't.
You mentioned this. You mentioned this idea of. Oh, sorry. That most people aren't familiar with how the nervous system is working. How would you describe that process of how the nervous system works?
Yeah, I describe it like this. I always it's expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. It's for me actually how life works. It's expansion and contraction. And a healthy nervous system works like having a good flow in between expansion and contraction. And it's not, a healthy nervous system is not that you are never getting angry, that you are not running away when you see any threat, you know. So it's like that's actually healthy, like the synthetic charge, the juice, like, oh, something is happening, I have to be in alert. That is all really healthy. But then it comes back into like the 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 flow is the fluidity is important between those things. That's what I would say, like really simply. When something happens that interrupts this flow, there can be a constriction happening, and then something else happens on top of it, and then on top of it, and then everything gets tighter, and then the nervous system tries to, and then people can be, in a constant situation of threat because it has not been deactivated, or the body doesn't remember that the threat is over. And then a little thing happens and the body's right back in that situation and is reacting to all the situations before. But maybe you can relate to that even in relationships when we are talking to each other, and sometimes somebody's saying something and then the other person is like reacting and you were like really, oh, whoa, what was that? But sometimes that person is not even reacting only on that what you say, but on a lot of experiences that have been before. So it's this nervous system is a really exquisite miracle thing, because nobody has a nervous system like you have, Jason. It's so unique, and nobody has a nervous system like anybody else. It's like everybody has a nervous system that is so unique in their own way. And actually, one of the things for the practitioner is always to learn how nervous system works, and to get to know, oh, this is interesting like that, because there can be like very twists and turns, and especially like a session never like is planned before, because you have to go what is coming up. And that is actually the way how a ceremony works and how you sing to a person too. You can start at one point, but then you'll have to follow and direct and see, what's coming up. Yeah.
Hmm. Is that something that can be worked on remotely, or it's much better to do it in person with a practitioner?
Yeah, I work remotely because I now especially, but I work remotely, but also when I have the opportunity, I work also in person. And yeah, of course, I am very interested in more and more to include the touch work as well, and that is then in person it's well. But also I have clients that I work with remotely, of course. It's possible.
And mainly remotely, just because of the whole COVID situation, the pandemic that's going on. That's just the easier way, or?
Yeah, but also remotely, I had that also before already, because my clients are usually clients that have come from the ceremony work, and they live in different parts. So they had an experience at Nivarau, or or they when I brought a group or something like that. So, and then the follow up or something. So they are living remotely over the over different places, and I was traveling a lot too, like since last year.
Yeah, what has that experience been like for you this last year with the lockdowns and the COVID situation? Do you have any thoughts about that on a personal or kind of on a bigger
Yeah.
scale?
Yeah, so I was last year, I think exactly this time, I kind of left Peru and went to Colombia and wanted to do my the first time I wanted to do a trip on my own, and I had this like great idea to I never been traveling alone in that way. I was traveled, to Peru where I knew people and stuff. And then I was one day there, and everything changed. And I remember you wrote me. I said, "Where are you?" You wrote me and said, "I want to get to the Sacred Valley." I'm happy you made it eventually. And so, as everybody, I had to, to accept the circumstances and to say, okay, this is not going to happen. And at that time, I was a little worried because COVID hit really hard Italy, so I was very sad about that. And I eventually was so lucky that my friend Francisco, who is Joe's cousin, who lives in Medellin, said I could come and stay with me. So I stayed with him for 3 months and in a beautiful finca. I haven't seen anything from Colombia in 3 months, but a beautiful finca. And it was a really deep experience. Like after 3 months, then I decided to come home on a rescue flight, and that for me on a personal thing on my experience was very important because I never felt home. I never really felt really comfortable here. I always felt very different, and that was also the reason why I left to Peru. And not fitting in this region here is so beautiful, but people are very traditional and very close-minded, and it's very hard to explain my life to here to that standard. It's like people sometimes look at me, what are you doing? And it's and then I realized, okay, I came here and now I'm stuck here, and I always wanted to run away, and always when I come back home here, the first weeks I always felt really bad. All my really like my bad traumas happened here, and I always felt I had to really run away. So this now gave me the opportunity to really go deep and really look into these wounds that I have that happened here, and that I never was able to look into. So the whole COVID situation pushed me to be in the present moment, and to it's a whole teaching for me, because it really gave me that opportunity to find forgiveness and peace with my home region here, which I was always struggling with. I don't want to live here, I know that, but I think I have now a different way to move forward in maybe finding another place to live for myself without having this because I had a huge resentment for the place here, and I feel I had the opportunity now to kind of work this out in a different way. And it also felt for me, I did all that other work now in the last 10 years for me personally, and now I come back here and I'm stuck here. And now you have to really look at it in a really deeper way. But everything that I did before was the foundation to be able to do this. And not easy, I can tell you. But I just felt I have to do it. Otherwise, I would always have this conflict. And so I feel this whole situation is not what I would have chosen, but it's what I was meant to have and what I needed for right now. And I feel in general, for me, this is also a moment where I feel like, okay, what are we willing to do for each other or what are we willing to do for the other person, for other people's good. And so that is what I want to like focus on in a way. So I I feel, yeah, I feel very blessed that I had this opportunity also to come back home and share time with my parents, which is really interesting. And a lot of people would say, "Oh my God," and a lot of people also said, "Oh, this must be." And I said, "No, it's actually the opposite because I had a lot of feeling with my dad happening. I never felt so seen by him, and we are having like this whole different opportunity and relationship. And also my mother is always listening to me. Like I can actually share my process with her, and she understands it. And so it's like such a beautiful moment in a way where I feel really, really blessed. And yeah, I don't like it to be, not be able to be mobilizing because we are still facing a really hard lockdown here, which in Italy is very strict, that we cannot leave the municipality, and that is hard. And I have been in a very strict quarantine and lockdown for the last year a long time, a lot. Like it's a different kind of diet for sure. But I try to make the best out of it. And I try to be, kind to myself, and I don't want to like resent the situation because I feel I can take so many things out of it. There are moments and moments, and I can be sad when I'm sad. I can be also, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. But then I just really like taking care of the emotion, and then it's like, trying to be this, and not getting stuck in one, like trying to be fluid between expansion and constriction.
Yeah, beautiful. Do you have a sense
Yeah.
of kind of the future of do you want to kind of continue to integrate this plant work and the somatic therapies and the meditation? Do you think you'll still be bringing groups to Niweirao, or do you have any sense of the direction
Yeah.
things are moving in?
Yeah, I have to. I actually, what was interesting in these times also, I couldn't manifest everything I was wanted to do, and also really cut off from my community. And so it felt at one times really lonely and isolating. But I also feel I have new dreams, and I developed new dreams for myself, which I haven't done before, where I see myself, what I want to bring, well, how I want to, yeah, support people. I want to bring groups to Niverau for sure. And I'm also calling Ricardo, and he says, when it's possible, you have to come. I said, yeah, it's fine. I will come. And but I don't know, in terms of plans in Italy, it's really hard to do because it's it's all this like rules, so we cannot. It's very in the moment, like okay, then I can do. But the good thing is I am, I'm free, I'm remote, so I can just, I can also leave from one day to another. And I want to continue somatic experiencing. I actually want to do a training this year. This is a big dream for me. Another training, like a master training. I want to learn more. I want to grow more. I want to like, yeah, I wanna continue on that, and ultimately also diet more, and yeah, live more.
You mentioned this project. I don't know if you're still involved in it, but in the Andes, is that something you are still
Yeah.
involved in? And maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, yeah, it actually uh, uh, we kind of concluded it with which was it was a whole project. We had a team, a Peruvian team working there, and they we were trying to give them a lot of responsibility. And then in 2015, we organized a huge fundraising with a movie, a documentary that has been aired here in this region. And that was a huge fundraising. So they became a budget. And then with that budget, they could manage it and see how to work through it. And so they are continued to doing this. Of course, everything changed also over the years already before COVID, because we had a teenager project, but then over the years the teenagers were not interested in working this anymore. Like it also was changing the whole social situation in a way. We had also, but a lot of things are still running, because we had a little workshop or manufactory people with handicap. They were like collecting plastic bottles, and then making all of that. They made all of the products of the like plastic bottles or cans. They made all these like nice products and they sold them, and that's still running. And a lot of other things are still running, because the team decided to continue, which I was really happy about. So they like even on a volunteer basis, because they were also paid by the funds that we were finding. So, but then they just continued volunteering, and it changed and shifted. So they are just meeting once a week, but it's kind of still working. I am still involved a lot with my friend Charo, because she has also a healthcare project. So I was always also helping out there. And I always visit and stay there, and I learned still a lot from her. And then in the COVID situation, of course, also we got back into supporting and doing a fundraising for people. Also, I also could fundraise something for the village in like for groceries in the village near to the Niverau Center. And so I was I do little things to still involved a little bit, I would say. Now that I'm speaking, I noticed but it's not like before, but it's about the relationships, because, they continue, and then you wanna, support when you can, in the right way, or trying at least in the right way to support. And I always enjoy a lot hanging out with my friend Charo in the Andes, because she has so much wisdom, and then she's always like, teaching me still a lot. She has a little clinic that she's treating people, and now especially treating people that are still having post-COVID issues with homeopathics and herbs and tinctures and stuff. So, and then she's always writing me what she's doing and what she found out. She said, "Oh, so when you don't have the taste and the smell, you have to use." So what she said, you have to wash your mouth with vinegar water. So she has a lot of success with people becoming back their taste with when you wash out the vinegar water the mouth. Maybe a little tip for any person. So I like that, to be in communication with her about all these things.
Have you found, like, having spent time in the Andes and in the Amazon, do you notice differences in those traditions and in kind of the wisdom that they're trying to teach or impart, or do you think they're getting at the same thing, or do you think there's like specific differences that you've seen between the two?
Yeah, it is different, because also the culture is different. Like I would say in the Andes, I haven't worked with like many people work with the Caros in the Cusco areas, like really like the Quechua people, so they might know more about that. I worked more with mestizo people, so it's a little bit different, but we worked like the patients were sometimes people that even didn't speak Spanish. They only speak Quechua. Uh, so, but that's the gap in the Andes, like the old elderly, sometimes they speak only Quechua, and their grandsons, they speak only Spanish. That is that problem happening a lot in the Andes. So, which I found really sad. Um, but so with Charo, how I learned from her and how she's like with her, she's very open. Like the Andes where I was, they were like, yeah, very open and very uh they are very uh warm and welcoming. and and in Shipibo, my experience is you need to warm up before it gets a little warmer. So it's a different culture. It's not it's that indigenous part is not the warmest culture, but you need the time. And even Charo told me, because she worked with the Shipibos in the even in the on the Ucayali River. So when she was a woman in her 20s, coming and wanting to teach them about hygiene and I say like salu and healthcare, and they said we are not accepting anything from you. So she went into the jungle for 1 month alone and did a diet, and then she came out, and then they accepted her. So there's like also in between them, like it needs to get warm. Right? So, and then she could that's what she always told me, that she was accepted, and they were giving her even a Shipibo name, but it took some time. So I would say yeah, in that the Shipibos are, they want you to learn, and the wisdom and all that stuff, and it's not a quick process. I would say that it's very important to know that it's not a fast train to learn. And therefore also I like it's also the relationship that you can have with those people, and to understand them, and the more you are spending time with them, the more you get to know how things are. And in the end, what I learned in my time, we don't have to forget that um, I feel the wounds of the conquista is pretty much noticeable in both cultures. So yeah, I have to forget that those people, they have been um, conquered, I say, yeah, by the Spanish, and not treating well. And in Huaraz, where I always spend a lot of time, there are so many mines, gold mines, auto mines. It's like so rich, and it's all from foreign countries, and they are exploding. They are not treating well the environment, and they are not paying well the people that are working there. So it's like continuous history repeating, like when we are like respecting their land and um their way. So I think like that's also a huge part when we are like coming and wanting the wisdom and wanting the healing. I think it's also that we come with a humble heart and respect, and say, okay, we might not always understand what how they react and stuff. But that's also a reason and a consequence of what they went through as people, because of the history. And now we are coming, seeking healing and seeking wisdom, but we have to be humble and respectful to receive that.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
A question I always like to ask, and I know this is a big question, but with this idea of these master plans, what do you think they're trying to teach us, or on an individual level and as humans in general? The $1 million question.
On a $1 million, oh God, I give you my PayPal. On a personal level, I think they want to teach us to get rid of the baggage that holds us back, to live a meaningful life. Like, they want to teach us to heal. They want to teach us to be honest with ourselves. They want to teach us to be kind with ourselves and with others, and respectful. And they want to teach us the connection, that everything is connected. Everything is energy, and everything has a consequence. Any act, any word, in a way, I would say, has an impact, and that we are responsible for this, and we are responsible for the world, and we are responsible for the nature, and we are responsible for how we treat other people and how we want to be. That shows also how we want to be treated. And they wanna, I think, on a global level, they wanna give us they wanna teach us to be conscious, have conscious living. Like, what is it that is important for you in life? What is the ultimately thing that is important for you? And they want to teach us that. I mean, for me, I would say it's important to have, always that better life quality that reflects also then on my surroundings and reflects with the people that I'm dealing with, and everything that I can, do to heal. And I think also what they want to teach us is forgiveness, most of all. And I think forgiveness is this huge spiritual healing that can happen and sets us free. And sets us free in so many ways, and with each other too. And I think that this is when we learn that so much more is happening. This is when we learn, like, so much more is actually happening that we might not always see, but it doesn't mean it's not coexisting in that way, because we are not seeing it. But the plants give us the opportunity to tap in sometimes into this world and to see it. And then we have a responsibility with that to carry on this wisdom in our lives. Did I get like $200,000 or?
That's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we're actually almost at 2.5 hours. So yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
the time goes by. Is there that was
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you so much for all of that. Is there anything you want to touch on that we didn't get to? Anything else that's on your mind?
No, the only thing that I always that I really care about is like to mm, to say that that healing in general is not easy, but it's very worth it. And I just want to say, it's real work, but I feel like this is what is the mission for me. This is the mission, like healing and having this journey. And for me, this is what I mean with growing. And so I want to like say that there is possibility to get support and help, um and everybody has its own time and all that. But I just want to say that I'm really, really grateful that I had that opportunity and that I have still this opportunity. And I feel that the more we heal internally, the more we change the world to the better.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
Well, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Martina. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed talking to you. It was
Oh,
wonderful
thank
seeing
you.
you again. And yeah,
Yeah, me
I
too.
hope our paths can cross one of these days again. Maybe in the jungle at Niueirao or somewhere. And
I so hope to. I hope so too, Jason. I really hope so. Yeah, maybe I come to see you even in the Sacred Valley or anywhere. Can
you're
we?
you're you're more than welcome. I hope you do.
Okay. Thank you for having. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
thank
a
you for
pleasure.
having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Martina. It was wonderful seeing you, and I
It
look
was
forward
so
to
great.
seeing you again.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Bye, Jason.
Okay, everybody, that is it. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Martina. She's a really beautiful woman. I really enjoyed that conversation. I hope you guys learned something. Hopefully, you learned a lot from it. And as always, if you're able to support this show, Patreon is a really good option for just $1 a month and upwards. You can subscribe and get really nice benefits like early access to shows, bonus material, Q&As. There's also the option of directly donating via PayPal. Both of those links will be in the show notes. And then if you're not able to do that, simply going in the YouTube channel of the Universe Within podcast homepage, subscribing to the show, turning on the notification bell, liking the video. That's a really big help in getting the show out to a bigger and broader audience. And then with the audio version, Apple Podcasts is still the biggest platform, so subscribing to the show there. And if you can, leaving a short review and a starred rating. That's a really big help. To all the people who have done that, thank you very much. To all the people who've donated via PayPal, thank you. And to all the Patreon subscribers, thank you very much. I really appreciate your help and support. The next few episodes, I think I'll be having a guy on speaking about Huachuma or San Pedro, who works here in the valley, and another guy, Roman, who runs a really big center also here in the valley, so they should be really good guests. And then after that, I'm not sure the exact order, but as always, there should be some really good guests coming on. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for the support. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next episode.